Hey there. Welcome to another episode of the Playing in the Sandbox podcast. I am Tammy J. Bond, your host. And in the Sandbox, we are deeply committed to inspiring action in today's leaders just like you. So I'm super glad that you joined me today. Today, I have a special guest in the Sandbox, Chris Warnes, and we call him CW. That's what his friends get to call him. Only his mom calls him Christopher, so we know not to do that. But he is an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur, successful businessman. He is a former veteran serving the United States, and he has some phenomenal stories that he's going to be sharing with us in the Sandbox today. Here's what I want you to get ready for. I want you to get ready for a lively conversation around a really fun topic, dominating your personal leadership. How to dominate your personal leadership. And we're going to be talking not only about his journey into leadership, but also talking over some of the steps in his book titled Dominate Your Day. So let's kick off your shoes. Let's get into the mindset that we're going to learn how to dominate our conversations and the way we communicate. We're going to learn how to dominate our day, and we're going to learn how to put some action steps in place to be more effective and working from a higher level of excellence. So you're also going to want to head on over to tammyjbond.com/podcast. Click on today's episode, Dominate Your Personal Leadership, and download your copy of today's action plan, because there's going to be more nuggets, tools, and ways that you can engage with Chris further on the action plan. All right, grab your notepad and pen, kick off your shoes, step into the sandbox. Let's get going with how to dominate your personal leadership with Chris Warnes. Hey, C-Dub. You know, we only get to call you that, I guess, that are friends. I'm not sure how many. The first time I met you, Chris, we referred to you or were introduced to you as Christopher. And you said, only my mother calls me Christopher, right? So
Yeah.
you introduced yourself as CW. So welcome into the Sandbox. I'm excited that you're here.
I'm excited to play in the Sandbox, Tammy. I'm grateful and honestly just thank you for the opportunity to be able to hopefully create some impact and some value and help some people out.
Well, you know, I know, create impact and value and help people in every conversation that you have. I haven't been around you a lot, but the time that I have been around you, it is absolutely clear. Your heart, you wear your heart out, and you're a direct communicator like me, as we were just laughing about. You know, we both get that and appreciate that in one another, and that is a value add in my world. You know, no storytelling. You know, get right to the point. So it's good. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, yes, in my intro, I've got your bio, and, you know, I know all the really cool things that your website says about you, but I want to hear from CW's chair. I want to hear from you about you.
Yeah, it's just great. It's a great question. I'm just a normal dude. I just work probably harder than many, but something that I realized along the way is everyone can work hard if they want to. And you know, at this point in my life, I'm turning 38 next month. I've accepted that I'm an educator. I'm a teacher. I love leadership. I love to teach leadership. I love mindset. I love to teach mindset. I've been doing both for about 2 decades now. So it's a good amount of time at still under 40, right? So it's about half my life. And every opportunity that I get to talk, teach, learn mindset and leadership, I do. Of course, I do a bunch of things when it comes to business and life and yada yada. But fundamentally, I'm just a normal dude that works extremely hard, loves leadership, mindset, teaching, and learning. That's really what it comes down to. I love to snowboard, shoot pool, and then my dog Penelope is the prized possession in my life. And there are two things in this life that I would never sell. Oh, three: my soul, my dog, and my snowboards. So
And snowboard.
yeah.
Well, I know that I'm sort of giggling at that. You're going to turn 38, and happy pre-birthday.
Thank you.
Did you say next week? Did I hear
Next
that
month,
right?
yeah.
Next
Next month,
month.
yeah.
Okay. I just
hmm
had a birthday last week. I'm like, wait, are we both? So I'm farther from 38 than you are. So, well, obviously, because it's next month, but I look back to when I was 38 and I'm like, I was good at what I did, but wow, all the things that you've accomplished at this stage under 40, right? Um, well done and kudos to you. And your early career was not entrepreneurial
Mhm.
necessarily, right? I mean, you were in the military, right? So
Mhm.
tell us about that journey because that's quite a story too. I want to hear about it.
Well, first things first, happy birthday. And I don't believe you that you're older than me. So we'll just leave it at that. I'll say you're
Yes,
like
please.
30, 30, 31 or something along those lines.
Oh, yeah. No, I
Yeah.
don't want to be 31 again.
Okay, fine. You win. Military for me was to straighten me out. Until boot camp, nothing had ever broken me. Not my parents, not sports, not school, anything. And I failed out of college in 2003, and I decided that given my extracurricular activities of partying and smoking weed, and like selling weed, doing stupid things that I shouldn't have been doing at such a young age, I figured it was just the beginning. So I really wanted, I think deep down, I just really wanted some direction and change. And the interesting part about it was I didn't really have a lot of friends growing up because I didn't want to follow the crowd. I just really didn't. I was never like that. I always wanted to go do my own thing. Like, they were running around doing things that 16 and 17-year-old kids do, and I wanted to be jumping 40 feet jumps on my snowboard. You know what I mean? Like, which was not common. Or I wanted to be in the pool room, like shooting pool, or on the lacrosse field or something along those lines. But it wasn't until I got into the military that I was really introduced to the subject of leadership. And when you're in the military, specifically in combat jobs like I was, leadership, you have to accept leadership, you have to learn it, and you have to exude it. There's no other way, or you could possibly get someone killed or yourself, which is,
Right.
it's worse getting other people killed. I mean, as far as I understand, anyways. And the military definitely broke me. Back then, and back then, only men were allowed in combat jobs, and only men went to the home of the infantry, which was in Fort Benning, Georgia. So only guys going into special forces, going into the Rangers, had to start off in the infantry school, and it was only men then, and they broke us. Like, they literally beat the hell out of us for 14 weeks.
Hmm.
Within 6 months, I was in Iraq. I was in Baghdad. Came home from that tour. Went back again as a leader in 2007, and it was a quick 5 year service, and it was eye opening to say the least. I did a couple of tours.
Well, and you came out with pretty highly decorated, as I understand as well.
Yeah, very. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I know that's not something you talk, well, I know you talk about it, but, and
Yeah.
not the purpose of today, but what did you learn from, I guess, from being broken? And how do you apply that in your leadership and for your mindset today? Because you have an exceptional mindset and a very, you're one of the most, I've met a lot of people, and in the short time that you and I spent FaceTime, face to face together in the same room, just your level of discipline and commitment to discipline is, I mean, like pretty much no one else I've ever met. Um, the consistency factor of your discipline, it's pretty incredible. So how was that? Where did that come from? And is that influence from your experience military? Is that, tell me more.
Thank you. And I hear that more and more, and it's really starting to resonate deeply with me because I love teaching mindset, right? And when I hear others refer to me in that manner, I'm humbled, I'm grateful, and I'm appreciative. So thank you for saying that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, the military, I was not any of that. I was a ding dong to say the least, and I had to accept that lifestyle. What many people might not know is military, all branches have core values, just like any good business. And
Right.
one of the core values that landed really, really hard with me was discipline, because I didn't have any in my life. I was unruly. No one could control me. And I'm still unruly and I'm still uncontrollable because I have to, if I'm going to follow someone, they got to be really good at leadership. I mean, really good. And we're talking to the most elite levels, which, as you know, being a fellow leader is relatively uncommon.
Mm,
So I had to accept discipline. I had to accept respect. I had to accept things of a new reality. And
yeah.
it formed the mindset and the human that I've become about 20 years ago, because I had no other options. I had to get straightened out and I had to find someone that would be able to do it. And it was only going to be the United States Marine Corps or the United States Army, one or the other. And the Marine Corps told me to fuck off. And I said, no problem. I'll just walk next door to the Army. And I walked into the recruiter's office and they're like, what do you want to do? I was like, I want to pull triggers. They're like, perfect. So that's that.
That they said here, we got a job for you, huh?
Yeah, yeah,
Well, thank you for your service and
yeah,
for your commitment and for what you left behind, because I know that
yeah.
there was things that were left behind. And I also know, as my husband has shared, who also was a combat vet, there's things that you leave behind and there's things that you take with you that'll never you'll never leave, right? They'll never leave you. So thank you for that contribution that you made and
There's a
sacrifice.
I don't mean to cut you off, and you're welcome. There's a quote I'm going to butcher. It's from Ernest Hemingway. I'm going to paraphrase it. He says he was a writer, I believe, around the turn of the century. He says that once a man has been hunted by armed men, your life is never the same,
Mm,
and it's true. It's
mm,
true. It changes everything.
yeah.
And he also talks about being hunted and hunting men, and it changes everything. But coming out of combat, I'm grateful for the opportunities that I had to lay on my back and have given up and thinking it was all over, because it gave me this perspective of gratitude, which,
Mm,
as you know, we have talked about, is huge in both of our lives. And
mm,
yes, we left a lot, but I gained more.
yeah. Yeah. And I see that in your daily actions and just how you show up. So, and the authenticity that you bring, and that's what makes you a great leader as well. And I'm curious about the entrepreneurial journey and that leadership journey for you post, you got out of the military after 5 years in. You
Yeah.
were, you know, um, for reasons I don't need to share here, but um, tell us about that journey that took you into where you're at now, running an eight-figure businesses. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a
I
big
mean,
leap. That's a big leap. Laying
yeah,
on your
yeah,
back, right?
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What's funny? I used to chase money. I was like, man, I really want to make 100 grand a year, and then I did it in my like mid 20s, and then I was like, I want to make a quarter million, and then I did it in my late 20s, and then I want to make a million, and then I did it, and it was I want to make 10 million, and then I did it. But right around that time, I also stopped caring. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love money, but I stopped connecting my outcomes to the financial reward or the being the primary goal that I chased. And it's interesting, as I move through the ranks at 15 years, this is year 15 for me, and I bump shoulders with 9-figure entrepreneurs, 10-figure. I'm going to have dinner with my buddy next week. He's on track for 4 billion,
Wow.
and he's 35. And there's no difference between 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, 9 figures, 10 figures. It's just a couple zeros, maybe a comma, you know,
A
and
little
it's just
extra
a read.
effort probably, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, sure, it definitely could be that. I mean, maybe I'm associating it to my friends that I know. Like we're all, we all, and like you, we all have a very like giving aspect to our leadership and our business, and there's no real difference between any of us other than maybe someone has another comma in their bank account. And when you start to look at it like that, it's not a big deal. It's just someone that's further down the journey, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the journey to nine figures for me is closing rapidly. But the hardest part for me was making it to a million. It took me a decade. It took me a long time. And then it was like bang, bang, bang. And on top of it, I mean, I guess I should give some foreshadowing. I started as a personal trainer and I was going to school for nutrition. And
Yeah.
I got really good at nutrition for athletes. And my goal was to own a gym. And by year 8, I had a gym. And by year 9, I made a million, and like, but by year 12, COVID hit and I was over leveraged and I opened back up. 40% of gyms nationally never reopened. Never. I opened back up. I was bleeding so much money, you know, and my customers, I didn't hold them to their contracts because they wanted out. I mean, it was a moral decision, but I had a huge
Yeah.
loss. I lost everything that I had put my entire career into. And I took it really hard. And it was one of the darkest times of my life. I mean, everybody left me. My
Mm.
team, my friends, my girlfriend walked out on me. I mean, I was a dummy. I was like 35 dating a 23-year-old. Like, of course she's going to leave. Daddy's credit card is no more. And, but I played myself on that one. But anyways, like everybody left. The only people that were there were like my two best friends and my mom. And I remember my best friend at the time. Um, he used to be the co-host of my podcast. He said to me, he sat me down. He's like, "You done?" And I was like crying. I was like, "Man." He's like, Are you done?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm done." He goes, "Listen up. Is anyone trying to saw your head off right now in Iraq? Is anyone trying to kill you and saw your head off and put it on Al Jazeera? No."
Reality
And,
check.
and he's like, "Get off the couch and get back to work." I was like, "Man." He's a school teacher. Yeah, he might make 40 grand a year. Nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying.
Mhm.
And I and the interesting part about it is in the past 3 years, not only have I reciprocated what I did in nine, but I've skyrocketed past.
Mm.
And I really think that at year 15, the best thing that happens to entrepreneurs is disastrous problems. You have to go through hell. You really do. You got to hit rock bottom
Mhm.
because someone like me, I surrounded myself with people that shouldn't have been there. And when I hit rock bottom and I looked around and it was my mother and my two best friends that stuck around, everybody else was like, whatever. I mean, not my audience. My audience stuck around. I should say that. But I think to achieve high levels of leadership and entrepreneurship and success, and high levels are relative, but the point is you gotta go through dark times. You got it. Because you gotta understand what you're built on. And I,
Yeah.
I really attribute that to my mindset.
Yeah.
I really do. So I think to answer your question, I think it's been a hell of a journey. And I've quickly realized at the decade and a half mark, I'm just getting started. I really am just like, man, I'm just getting started.
That's
And when you have that realization, it's freeing.
yeah. Yeah. Well, and those rock bottoms, when used well, they teach us about what that next level is for us. And the path is clear. The path is made clear. And I think that I was just talking with a client earlier today, actually, about this very topic of so what did you learn from this? Yes, you feel bad. Yes, let's list off all the things. Those are your truth right now. And we look at what the opportunity is that this is presenting for you, what's the learning opportunity and what would you do different the next time, and if not this then what, and you're asking that question to yourself, you can see where it's setting you up for that next level of success. And if you don't go through that and you don't take that time to learn from it, then it's all wasted. And I think
Mhm.
that's to me, that's the tragedy. When people dwell, like your friend said, what I would say, what do we do? Why are we dwelling on this? What's the
Mhm.
value of that? Right? How long are you
Mhm.
going to cry over spilt milk? Let's go, stand up.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
when you get to that place or you have people that champion that around you, those are valuable people. And those experiences are very valuable. And that's what you used in developing your next level of leadership. And now look at you, just 3 years later, right? Not that many years later. So, so that's fantastic, actually. And you wrote a book. At what step in this process did you write your book, Dominate Your Day?
Yeah, excellently said. You have to get stripped of everything to really understand. In my case, I lost like $6 million in 2020, everything. And
Wow.
yeah, and what it comes down to is like it's just a nominal amount. It really is. And you know, to answer your question, it's actually a funny story. In 2018, the only goal I didn't accomplish was opening a consulting business. I made
Uh-huh.
every excuse, and I don't miss goals. And I made every excuse. You're not a PhD. You're only an MBA. You've only been in business a decade, not two. You only have 60 employees, not 600. Who are you to consult? You're only 33, not 53. Whatever. 2019 comes around, same thing. Didn't accomplish it. I was like, Q4 of 2019, right before COVID, not even knowing, going into it when I was doing because I always do my goals. I used to do my goals in like Q3, Q4. Now I do milestones, completely different conversation. But um, I was doing my goals for 2020, and I said I'm not failing this one again. And I put it at the top on my list on my whiteboard, and I had built all this. I wanted to be this grand business consultant. And I had practiced on my staff for a decade, right? I was turning these people into high performers. Yes, we were making money and so on and so forth. But I never collected money from anyone to do it. But I knew I was ready. So I didn't beta test my market. And what I did was I put out to the public in like March 2nd, like right before COVID. I was like, I'm a business consultant. Like, get at me, like I'll help you with your business. And I got inundated by guys my age not wanting business advice, but wanting advice on how to be successful and
Right.
wealthy. And I was like, uh, okay, I better change my approach here. So I sat down one night and I wrote out my recipe for success. you Wrote it all out. And I built this live course called Dominate Your Day. Once a week, we got on a call for I think it was 8 weeks, and I taught a module, right, each week. And in it, like people were getting promoted, quitting their jobs, opening a business. One guy hadn't slept with his wife in like 3 years.
Oh gosh.
That he got her pregnant. Like
Oh.
all like crazy, right?
I
All
mean,
sorts
that's
of
something to celebrate. Now you're
yeah.
gonna be a
Yeah.
fertility guru.
So yeah, I told him, I was like, when was the last time you took your wife out on a date? I'm not even married. You need to take your wife out. Go on a date. You need to court her. Go back to how you got her and continue to do that. Anyways, I mean, it's pretty basic. But anyways, now we're in COVID and everything. My gym's closed, and I have nothing to do. Like literally nothing to do. So I look at myself and I'm like, man, this needs to be written into a book. And I sat my ass down and wrote a book. And best part about it was, here's the best part, right? I finished like 75 pages, and I reached out to my mentor at the time who has like 12 books. And I was like, yeah, I'm done. He's like, 75 pages? And I was like, yeah. He's like, what do you want? You want a PDF ebook, Chris, or you want an actual book? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, 150 pages minimum.
Yep.
Okay, back to
Well,
work.
14,000 words. Come on.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think my first book was like 35 or 40,000 or something like that. But anyways, yeah, I wrote it because the students were having some pretty incredible success quickly, and I ended up self-publishing it, and it came out in Q4 of 2021. And I forgot the exact question that you asked me, but that's how the book came to.
Got it. Yeah. So I know you have your 10 steps in there, and I want to chat with you real quick about a couple of them because they're my
Mm-hmm.
favorite. Your process on holding yourself accountable. And what I love about that is you and I have talked about. You have no business. I say lead yourself well before you lead others. And included in that is hold yourself accountable before you expect to hold others accountable. Like if you're not going to be responsible for your own personal accountability, look in the mirror and say, what's my role in this? What am I doing? What am I missing? And what do I need to change, course correct, or apologize for? Right. Then you have no business trying to do that to somebody else. Right. So I love that you have that as step number 2, which is how to hold yourself accountable. Tell me about how that came to be for you.
Yeah. Well, I used to do this, right? Everybody else's fault. Then when I started to realize that
Yeah.
this was the answer,
Let me show you the mirror.
yeah, let me show you the mirror. Now, the exactly. I mean, at this point in my career, I will literally stand in front of the mirror with people that I'm working with.
I give them out
Um,
in workshops. I take
exactly,
mirrors and hand them out.
exactly.
Mhm.
You know.
Mhm.
So the book is a high performance system. It's dominate your day, a high performer's guide to winning at life, right? To be a high performer, you can't do this. You
No.
can't.
Mm-mm.
You got to do this at least 99% of the time, which I also write about the 99 to 1 rule. And, so yeah, you have to, if you could get through the first 2 chapters of my book, which is the book's a system, there's 7 steps, right? Number 1, you're wrong. If you could get through chapter 1, that it's okay to be wrong and it's actually quite freeing, and then it's your responsibility.
Yeah.
If you could get through those 2 chapters, that's when the real stuff happens. Like DMs, like, Chris, you changed my life. No, I didn't. You changed your own life. I just held the door open for you.
Yeah.
But the point that I'm getting at is, let me give a live example. So I'm on a it's usually in person, but we were on a call today with my leadership team, and it's my 2 top people, right? It's one of my directors and my president. And I opened up the call. I was like, guys, we got a serious problem. And they're like, uh-oh, because they know how I get. I'm passionate and I'm Italian, so I get loud. I'm not yelling at them. I'm loud and
You're
I'm
excited and your
I'm
volume goes up.
passionate, and they know that. They're my my top 2, so they know my crazy level. And but to achieve anything in life, you have to have some crazy, and the people around you have to understand it. And so anyways, I was like, guys, this is the problem. Like, we need some fucking sense of urgency here. Like, this company has done this in 1 quarter. We got to step on the gas pedal here. This is not working. And I'm not pointing the finger at you two. I'm pointing the finger at me. I haven't preached the sense of urgency that we need to build $100 million project for this company, right? We're going into whatever you want to call it, 2023 through 2024. And if we're going to do something, it needs to be right now, not 2025, not 2026.
Mhm.
And I sat there and I took responsibility for our lack of sense of urgency that we have on this specific team of this specific company that I run, because I've pulled myself, well, I haven't, but we've pulled myself out to the point that I'm just the founder. That's all. I'm just the founder. I don't actually do anything in the company other than preach core values and vision. That's it, as the visionary. So I held myself responsible, and I said, guys, it starts with me and it trickles down to you. The urgency that we have to get to this team is going to start with you, and it comes from me. It's my fault. We need to change this now because we have a board meeting tonight. So the point is, no matter where you are in life, you're a leader or you're not. I mean, listen, if you have a cat, you're a leader. If you have a dog, you have a leader. If you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend or whatever the in between is called, you're a leader. well, however you want to phrase it, whether you have a company or not, or you're on a team or not, leadership starts with yourself.
Yeah.
And when it comes to leadership and it comes to high performance, you have to take responsibility for everything
Yep.
outside of catastrophic events
Yeah.
like COVID, like getting hit at a red light, while you're in park, like, women, unfortunately, one of my clients, she just went through this, she got raped, like
Oh,
getting raped, like, and I hate to use that word. I despise that word. But the point that I'm getting at is outside of the 1% of things that happen to you, 99% is your responsibility.
right.
And that's why I put that step in the system, which is my book.
Yeah. Yeah, there are the things that are outside of our control, but it's always about how we respond to them that matters
Yeah,
most.
exactly.
And that's the key in that, right? There is that
Mm,
1% that happens to us, the horrible, horrific, terrible things, and that leave you flat on your back,
yeah.
that leave you wondering what just happened and who just walked out the door, or what terrible thing just, approached me in a parking lot or whatever. Those things happen, and
Hmm.
they're it's about how we respond to them that matters most. And I think that
Yeah,
that plays into accountability as well, our personal
absolutely.
accountability to the level of excellence of which we conduct ourselves, enough to say, where am I in this? What am I willing to do with this? I was, and I don't know if I ever shared this story with you, but my kids is, my first husband, I was in a very abusive marriage, nearly lost my life. And
I think you did tell me
I
that.
did I tell you that? Yeah. And I've
Yeah.
never looked at myself as a victim. I've had
Hmm.
courts and judges tell me, oh, you're a victim. No, I'm a survivor. And let me just show you how. And no, my kids aren't going to be labeled with that. Here's who I am. And it was a lot to come up and overcome, not because I wasn't actually, interestingly, it wasn't my framework. It was other people's framework of which the way they saw me or thought I should behave because that happened to me. And I think that's a big piece too. But when I'm holding myself accountable and responsible for my actions, my reactions, and responses to situations, even the bad things we can overcome quicker, or overcome with a sense of um, knowing and understanding that, yes, that happened, but it doesn't define me. It's something that happened. And I need to know accountability to make that so. So that's my take on that.
I'll tell you, man, women are the toughest creatures out there. I say this all the time publicly too, because I can't imagine getting abused. Like, I'm six
Yeah.
foot bald. I have cauliflower in my ear and I'm 210 pounds. Like, I don't fear other humans.
Well,
Never.
I've seen your arms and the size of arms and how many eggs you eat for breakfast. So I'm pretty sure those muscles also probably contribute,
Yeah,
right?
I'm a big boy and I carry a lot of muscle and I'm a very seasoned
Yeah,
warrior, for better terms,
you are.
lack of better terms. But the point that I'm getting at is, like, I don't have fear for other humans. And like women, like like guys that, I'm not going to sit here and be negative. I'm just going to say guys that take advantage of women in a physical manner, it's pathetic. But for a female to take that, to handle it, and for you to go through it, and for you to get out of that victim mentality, and for you to use yourself as an example for your children, that we're not victims here. This is the way things went. Now we're going to deal with it. I mean, it's just, not to mention, you bring life into the world. Women are just the toughest creatures. There's nothing tougher. And I always say this because I have the utmost respect for how tough you guys
Well, I will say this, and not to make this about that topic, but I will say this. I also learned very early on the choices that I made because of what was modeled for me as I was growing up. And so the choices I made were my normal choices because of what I saw. So
are.
behaviors
Hmm.
that most girls that weren't raised like I, or environments that I was raised in, they would see the behaviors as unsafe and I need to walk
Yeah.
the other way. To me, they were normal. And it was that, oh, this is, I even wrote about it, like, this is when normal came to visit and stay for a while. Right? Like, because it was normal. So that's that piece of, you don't just find yourself there. It actually, I was there growing up. It
Hmm.
just was a
Hmm.
continuation of, and it was that, that moment of that, no, not just no, hell no, this isn't going to happen, we're done.
You had to unlearn it. You had to
Yeah,
unlearn that that's not reality and it's
but
abusive.
understand my responsibility in
Yep.
it too, right? Yeah. So
Yep.
anyways, so that's cool. Point number 2 in your book, it's actually lesson number step number 4, right?
Mm.
Your learning mistakes are only lessons. So tell
Hmm.
us about that.
Yeah. I think I think the best way to explain this is to piggyback off what you just said, right? Like I call myself a geriatric millennial, right? I was raised in the 80s. For lack of better terms, I had the shit beaten out of me. I don't think you could do that anymore. But when I made a mistake, oh boy, did I get punished. I mean, I was raised Italian. And if you're not familiar with the Italian culture, you get hit with anything within grabbing distance. Vacuums. Remember the phones in the 80s and 90s with the big cord? I
I
mean,
just
yeah, you get whacked with the phone and then whipped with the cord. You know, it's like, what is happening here? This isn't a circus. Like slippers,
yeah,
soap, like frying pans, like anything. But the point that I'm getting at is I made mistakes
yeah,
I was punished for them.
yeah.
And that was the environment I was raised in. So the correlation that I made was mistake bad. As I went into my personal development journey post military to heal my PTSD, I found that all of these like high level authors and successful people were like, no, 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 mistakes aren't bad. And I'm like, wait a second, this doesn't make sense. What do you mean mistakes are just opportunities to learn? Mistakes are just lessons.
Yeah.
And I started like learning the depth of this. And just like you said, I'm an adult. I'm a grown man. I have to take responsibility for my childhood, how I was raised, even it being extremely toxic. I was raised in this environment that just I don't blame my parents. They had no clue. They didn't
Yeah.
know.
They had
I,
the
I'm,
tools that
I'm
they had.
they didn't know. And listen, I'm close to my mother, and I still have the conversation with her. I'm like, I don't blame you, but you're not going to use that BS on me now. So sorry, I love you, but no, no projection, no manipulation. A
Yeah.
lot of mothers use manipulation and they don't even realize it.
Mhm.
But anyways, we're going back to mistakes, right? So I don't remember exactly when it was in my career. It was probably late 20s. I started to understand that mistakes are actually okay. And I had to accept that first. And then probably like early 30s, I was like, oh man, okay, I'm learning. I mean, and I'm a slow learner, so I'd have to make the mistakes on numerous occasions, right? Like I'm thick headed. And then it was probably like mid 30s. I started looking. I had this conversation with Bob Berg actually when he was on my show. And he was like, you started looking for opportunities to be wrong and that mistakes to be made in your mid 30s. Like you're ahead of people. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, I didn't do that until my 40s. But the point is, like, I was so aware as an individual that of many things to include when you make a mistake, it's a lesson. So, for instance, in that same leadership meeting that I made tonight, I called my president out on something that he could have done a lot better. And I said, listen, I want to be wrong about this. I'm saying this is going to happen tonight because you had the opportunity to take it a level up, which you are aligned to and do. But
Mhm.
I think this is going to happen tonight, and I don't like it, and I hope I'm wrong.
Mhm.
So when I show up to the meeting tonight, if I'm wrong, I'm going to stand up as the founder of this company, as the founder of this nonprofit, as the founder with a consultant there that is in the Hall of Fame for raising 11 figures in his career, and he wants to help us because I can't afford him. I'm going to stand up and be like, you know what? I'm wrong. I was wrong. And because I want to be wrong at this point, I want to find opportunities to be wrong because that's when I learn. I've correlated over the past decade that wrong equals new, wrong equals lesson, wrong equals an area to grow.
Mhm.
Mistakes are growth. So now I don't make a lot of stupid mistakes anymore because I made them.
Yeah.
Now, when I make mistakes, it affects other people's lives. So it's farther and fewer between, but the more opportunity I have to be wrong, the faster I learn.
That's really good. And it's that the more opportunities I have to fail, right? I actually can use that failure in that same way. The more if I'm not failing, I'm actually not stretching myself. If I'm not failing,
Hmm.
I'm not pushing myself hard enough. And
Yeah.
and I haven't challenged myself big enough. That's one other way that I look at that too. But you're right, mistakes are lessons. They are learning lessons. They're opportunities should we choose to embrace them that way. And I love how you framed that up. And being able to show that to your team as a leader to say, look, I failed, or that I'm responsible. This is on me. And I want to be wrong, or I am wrong. Um, is such a healthy way to approach challenging situations when the leader can acknowledge it and say, here's the fail point and it's on me. Yep, we all have our individual seats on the bus on this one, but this is mine. And that makes it safe, because failure really is, and mistakes, we want it to be made safe, right? Safe for others. So that they do it more, because that's where we learn.
Creating the environment for people that grew up the same way we did, for them to learn that it's okay to make mistakes
Yeah.
is a lengthy process.
And
And
sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
I just wanted to laugh. I was laughing when you were talking about how you grew up, because you and I shared when we were together down in Jupiter. We shared it with the room, and I remember the reactions in the room when you're talking about getting smacked up the head, and I'm like, "Oh yeah." If mom had it didn't matter.
Ah!
Frying pan hairbrushes were the worst. A
Oh
broom,
man.
it didn't matter what it was. If you pissed her off, and whatever she had in her hand is probably going to come up your backside. And my sister and I laugh about that. We find that to be funny, and I'm glad that we could share that experience. It was we're talking about normal, but anyways, I know
It's what it
there's people
was.
listening to this that are cringing, and I'm like, whatever. It was the 70s for me, the 80s for you. So
I'll piggyback off that with one thing. I don't have any kids, and if the time comes that I do have kids, I'm going to be honest with you. I've thought about this. Will I hit my kids?
mm,
I don't think I would resort to hitting my kids. I
I
know
don't
too
think
much.
so.
I know too much about psychology.
Yeah,
I know that positive reinforcement and praise is going to get what I desire for my
yeah,
children. However, just like I raise pit bulls, right? Pit bulls are tough. I don't hit my dogs. However, if they step out of line and do something that is really dangerous, I've thought to myself, I don't think I would hit my kids. However, I wouldn't rule it out completely. I'm not saying I would go around beating my children.
yeah,
I'm just saying that's how I was raised. And if someone needs a little slap across the tush because they're 3 years old and they keep running out into the road until they learn,
right.
no, no, no. You don't go into the road. Whack across the butt because they'll associate road with bad.
The whack on the butt. Yeah.
Right.
Listen,
Like, so.
you're not going to repeat those same behaviors, because you've learned from them. You learn from the mistakes of
Hmm.
others, and you've grown from them,
Hmm.
and you don't repeat them as a parent.
Hmm.
You have awareness to understand that that's not the best way. We can look at it to go, well, that was the laughter for me. I think it is survival. Was survival a bit of it as well, to just frame it up different. But
Yeah.
yeah, you're going to be a great dad when you're there one day. It's not
Thank
that
you.
you're not, you're just not yet. And
I
you're only
appreciate.
38 almost.
I
You've got some
appreciate
time.
that. Yeah, I gotta get married if that's gonna
Yeah,
happen.
right? Let's do it in order. Let's see. Now, everybody, I've probably lost people that are like, oh my gosh, they're talking about that it's okay to get smacked with a frying pan. And now Tammy just said you have to get married before you can have kids. What's happening in the world? I
Uh,
just turned it on its side. There's no
I
have
think
to.
we all come from different backgrounds, right?
Yeah.
You and
Yeah.
I were raised similar, and I think it's important to understand that everyone was raised differently, and just understanding the way people were raised will really help you understand that person because we're all product of our environments. And in
Right.
my case, I've undone and relearned a lot of things. However, there's some things that I haven't, and that is, I was raised strict Roman Catholic.
Yeah.
You get married before you have kids. And I don't look down upon people that don't do it. However, if I was going to do it, I would probably do it in that manner
Yeah.
because that's how I was raised.
That's the order of things for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get that. Yeah. No judgment, no looking down.
Yeah.
So I'm noticing our time and we're coming to the end. And there is one topic that I'm going to make a powerful request that you will come
Yeah.
back for part 2 of this conversation so we can talk
Let's
about a
count
couple
me
of
in.
other additional things we didn't cover today, like the benefits of sleep that I know you're super passionate about. That's like
10 hours last night, 12 the night before.
that's an episode all on its own, CW, and I need to have that conversation. But here's where I want to close out our conversation today with.
Hmm.
And this is around communication. And you said something to me at the start, before we started recording, you said, I said, what's the best communication, from a team leader perspective and, for your team as a leader. And you just said, stop wasting everyone's time. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. This is what it comes down to. The way that I teach anyone that I work with is clear, concise, and direct. Clear, concise, and direct. Clear, concise, and direct. I teach them to frame it in their head, clear, concise, and direct, before they open their mouth. Now, in my specific case, I have people that their second language is English. So I have to be patient there. However, listen, if you're doing meetings for an hour, you're fucking wasting people's time. Okay. Half hour could be considered too long. I know someone that they only allow their team members 2 minutes per person
Bottom line.
because how much time is wasted beating around the bush.
Yeah.
Frame it. Hey, this is what we need to talk about. We need sense of urgency with this company. We have done this much in one quarter, and if we don't get things together, it's going to be a problem. Guess what? We don't have to talk around the bush and talk about everything else that comes to it. We have a problem. We need to fix it. Now, the follow-up piece is how do we fix this? Number one, Chris needs to take responsibility for the lack of urgency, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But the point that I'm getting at here is clear, concise, and direct communication is something lost in, I believe, humanity at this
Mhm.
point. Just because we're so not interpersonal anymore, everything is very text related and video related and short clip related and edited. I think people's communication has gone by the wayside, to say the least. And when it comes to someone like me, like if you get me, I'm expensive. I know that. You get me on the phone, you get 15 minutes of my time, and you're paying a lot of money for it. I have to move between other things.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I don't think I'm better than anyone else. The point is, get to the point. Stop
Bottom
wasting
line.
people's time.
Yeah.
Stop what you're wasting people's time by sitting there and talking. Conversations don't have to take an hour to have a meeting on marketing. What's working? What's not? Double down on what's working, move forward. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good. I call it bottom line. Just bottom
Yeah.
line it. I don't need the
Yeah.
storytelling. I don't need the
Hmm.
who dids and the what dids and the how comes and the why nots. I just want you to bottom line. Tell me the problem and
Yeah.
tell me what you're going to do about it. That's it.
There's a time and place for stories. And you
There
know
is.
this, like successful and wealthy people tell stories and compare stories, but it's around drinks and dinner, not formal fucking business meetings.
Right. I
Sorry
just
for
don't like to
continually
dwell on.
dropping the F bomb.
You're good. You're good. I don't like to dwell on. I rather look at frame the problem as what, where the solution is. And,
Yeah.
that's just, and then bottom line it.
Hmm.
It's a pet peeve of mine when people go into weaving the stories. So
100%.
I liked what you said around stop wasting everyone's time. Yes.
Yeah.
And move that way. Do that.
Let's
If
go.
you're
Let's
course
go.
correcting an employee, if you're needing to, correct a
Yeah.
behavior and that's going to take a little extra time, but still, I'm not going to give you all the story. I'm still going to tell you to start this, stop this, and continue with this.
Mm-hmm.
What did you hear
Hmm.
me say? Got it? Good, go. It's like,
Exactly. Positive reinforcement. Okay, get
yes,
to it.
Exactly. Check in. I'm here. We're going to actually set up a check in, and follow up is key to effective communication as well, right? You and I talk, I think we're in agreement on that. You've got to have your proper follow up too, especially when you give that bottom line direct communication. There's got to be that follow up to that a cadence of follow up so people know you're paying attention. Yeah, and you're in it with them, but you're paying attention.
Yeah.
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 So very cool. All right. CW, it's been a pleasure having you in the sandbox. We're going to schedule another time where
Hell
your
yeah.
computer and technology is all working, right? You've been so
Yeah, for
gracious and
real.
patient with getting on your phone when Chrome wasn't cooperating today. So I appreciate you for that. Loved spending time in the sandbox with you. And I will make sure that in the action plan and all the information, people know exactly how to find you. But give us a last final parting thought for today on
Yeah.
leadership. Yeah, on leadership.
Yeah. On leadership, go easy on yourself.
Mm,
You got to keep yourself accountable. You got to do what you're setting out to do. But especially you leaders out there, all right? If you have the basics in line and you keep yourself accountable, go easy on yourself when it gets tough, and go easy on your people when it gets tough. I'm not saying give them slack and give them room to fail. Well, you need room to fail, but give them room to get by and enable them. I'm not saying, you know, let your feelings control you because you don't feel like doing something. I'm saying when it's tough and there's a lot of problems and things just don't seem like they're going right, go easy on yourself and go easy on your people, because we're all human. We're all human. We all make mistakes and no one's perfect. Even the highest performers and the highest leaders make mistakes. They're not perfect. And you got to learn to be easy on yourself in the hard times, because if you're constantly hard on yourself in the hard times, you're just going to end up probably self-destructing at one point or another.
yeah. Good word, CW. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Cannot wait for part 2. And I appreciate you very much, friend. Thanks for your contribution in the sandbox and in the world. You make a difference. Hey there, thanks so much for joining me in the sandbox today. What a great episode with CW. I loved having Chris Warrens in the conversation in the sandbox today, talking all things dominating your personal leadership, dominating and up leveling you as a leader with those conversations that you're having. He is a phenomenal young man that I am super truly honored to have had join me today. My hope is that you're leading with some really great new tools and tips and strategies to up level your personal leadership, navigate your team leadership, and your next bold conversation. And hey, it would mean so much to me if you took a minute and went and shared this episode with a friend or a colleague that you think could truly benefit from the content that we shared here today. I know that third-party affirmations go a long way, and I'm honored by you taking the moment to share this episode and share the power of the tools in the sandbox today. Don't forget to head on over to tammyjbond.com/podcast. Click on today's episode to download your copy of the action plan, where there's more information in there, if you can believe it, after this powerful episode. Now, remember, friend, leadership is not something that you're born with. It's actually something that you grow into. And thank you for taking the time to grow into your next level of leadership today in the sandbox. Make it a great day.